Thank you. And to welcome you, Minister. I'm only sorry that I had to bring you back in today because you were in here yesterday dealing with two similar adjournments. I want to bring up the issue of Loughglynn Garda Station and Tarmonbarry in County Roscommon and their proposed closures, Minister. And I accept from your answers to other senators yesterday, this is not a cost-saving measure. However, I do believe that some of the recommendations by senior Gardaí are flawed in some of the Garda stations that they have selected for closure. In the case of Loughglynn, Loughglynn is a little village close to my own town of Ballahedrine, where 2 Gardaí were shot dead in 1980. It's a one-man station and he's retiring. What amazes me about this situation is that at the moment, albeit that this man is ready to retire, the OPW are spending 80,000 on renovations to the same building. Now, I find that something fundamentally wrong with that. On the issue of Tarmonbarry Garda Station, I believe that this is a mistake and a very big one, Minister. There's nobody retiring in this case. Tarmonbarry is one of 3 gateways to the west of Ireland. One is Athlone, one is Carrick-on-Shannon, but the main one is Tarmonbarry. The projected savings by closing the station in Tarmonbarry is 3,000 to 4,000 per annum, and we're spending 80,000 in Loughglynn. 20 years ago, Minister, there was 1 sergeant and 5 guards in Tarmonbarry village dealing with 18 houses in the village at the time. Today, there are 400 houses in Tarmonbarry and only 1 Garda that's not proposing to retire. Recently in Tarmonbarry, there was a German couple tied up and robbed, got national coverage on TV, and only for the quick action of the local Gardaí, they would have got away. Obviously, the west of Ireland, rural Ireland, is a target for Dublin criminals. We see it on a regular basis with rural post offices being robbed. And in one case there 6 months ago, my own sister was tied up by a Dublin gang in a small post office and held at gunpoint and robbed and apprehended on the way back towards Tarmonbarry, thank God. And there's many other post offices in County Roscommon that have been robbed as well by Dublin gangs. Now, many of these gangs down through the years, Minister, have been apprehended in Tarmonbarry. It crosses the River Shannon, and you know, they have to get back to Dublin. They have 3 routes, and the main route, as I said, where 90% of them would be going through, is through Tarmonbarry. And just to say, Minister, I have spoken to a senior Garda source myself that I would know, and he thinks that a lot of the stations earmarked for closure are flawed as well. And Minister, just before I conclude, I also want to say that another mistake that has been made in recent times as well is that Tarmonbarry has been taken out of the control of the Longford Garda Division and put into the control of the Boyle Garda Division. Now, that's ever more reason why there should be a man station in Tarmonbarry, because Longford is no more than 5 or 6 minutes from Tarmonbarry, whereas Boyle is 45 minutes from Tarmonbarry. And bottom line here, Minister, we don't want to be sending a signal to the criminals that come down and rob rural Ireland that we are open for business for them.
Well, I'd like to thank the Senator for raising the issue, and I'd like to first of all say that I don't think that a single Garda in a station in Tarmonbarry can provide protection for the local community from criminal gangs. It requires a great deal more than that from An Garda Síochána than can be undertaken by any single member of the Garda Síochána, no matter how dedicated they are. A similar issue was raised in this House yesterday, as the Senator mentioned, in relation to the closure of Corrandella Garda Station in Galway. And many of the points that I made then equally apply to the closure of Tarmonbarry and Loughglynn Garda stations. Notwithstanding this, both the Garda Commission and I are fully aware of the potential impact of the closure of any Garda station on the community it serves. This is why local Garda management, in places where a station is going to close, will consult with local communities to determine how best to continue to deliver policing service in their area. It's also why the Commissioner has reiterated the commitment of the Garda Síochána to providing a professional and effective service to the community in all areas of the country, including Loughglynn and Tarmonbarry. As the Senator knows, I recently laid before this House the policing plan for 2012. This plan, prepared by the Garda Commissioner under the Garda Síochána Act 2005, sets out the proposed arrangements for the policing of the state during the coming year. Under that plan, 31 Garda stations will be closed in 2012. A further 8 stations, which are currently non-operational, will be officially or formally closed. Tarmonbarry and Loughglynn Garda stations are among the 31 stations due to close in 2012. In addition, the public opening hours of 10 other stations are to be reduced. These stations currently open to the public on a 24-hour basis, but will in future be open to the public from 8 a.m. until 10 p.m. each day. In reaching these decisions, the Commissioner reviewed all aspects of the Garda Síochána's policing model, including the deployment of personnel, the utilisation of modern technologies, the operation of Garda stations, both in terms of opening hours and possible closures. In addition, all divisional officers were asked to assess the level of activity in each Garda station in their area. Based on all the evidence, the Commissioner concluded that resources could be better deployed, more effectively used on the front line. These particular stations no longer had to be staffed and maintained. This is a very important point. As with every other public sector organisation, the Garda Síochána is going to have to manage with reduced resources. The House will be aware that under plans agreed by the previous government arising from the commitments made in the EU-IMF agreement, Garda numbers are being reduced. It is vital, therefore, that the best use is made of the available resources, in particular the priorities given to frontline operational duties. Both Tarmonbarry and Loughglynn Garda stations are in the Roscommon Longford Garda division. Tarmonbarry is in the Boyle district, as mentioned, which has a total complement of 38 Gardaí at all ranks. Loughglynn is in the Castlereagh district, and that district has a complement of 48 Gardaí at all ranks. The divisional strength is 291. And these divisional resources are augmented as necessary by national units such as the Garda National Drugs Unit and the National Bureau for Criminal Investigation. As I already said yesterday, I would like to pay tribute to the Garda Síochána. I have complete confidence in the capacity of the force to continue to provide an excellent policing service in the communities affected by all the closures, including Tarmonbarry and Loughglynn. Furthermore, I believe that the Garda Commissioner should have the support of the House as he introduces necessary reforms to ensure the Garda resources are used as effectively as possible so that the best possible policing services provided to the public. In that context, I have to say that as Minister for Justice, I have to be guided by the operational assessments and decisions made by the Garda Commissioner. I can't, as Minister, and I don't believe it's appropriate that I do as Minister, second guess a decision of the Commissioner with regard to operational matters. In relation to 2 matters raised by the Senator, each of the Garda stations that are being closed are in the ownership of the Office of Public Works. They're important assets owned by the state, and there will be, and there is taking place, works on some of those properties to ensure that they're maintained in proper condition, because it's intended that the properties either be sold or be used for other purposes, and where appropriate may be utilised indeed in some instances to provide community services, provided that no further additional expenditure falls on the state thereafter. So there is a responsibility to ensure the premises don't fall into disrepair, that they're maintained in good condition, that where there are roofing issues, that they're addressed so buildings don't deteriorate and an asset isn't lost. And finally, I would like to say to the Senator that I'm very sorry to learn of the experience of his sister in the appalling incident that he described. Unfortunately, a number of people throughout the country have been affected by similar incidents, and I would have to say, and I was interested to hear the Senator saying that the gang involved were intercepted following this incident. And there have been a number of such incidents that have been successfully investigated by the Garda Síochána and which have resulted in prosecutions successfully being undertaken. And a number of individuals who have engaged in that type of criminality are currently guests of longevity of the state within our prisons.
Thank you, Minister. Have you a brief question, Senator?
Yes, thanks, Minister, but I don't accept that one well-trained Garda wouldn't be able to do enough to thwart criminals crossing a narrow bridge in Tarmonbarry. And as I said, Minister, the Boyle Garda division, despite all its numbers, is still 45 minutes away from Tarmonbarry. And I would also say that it's not necessarily true, Minister, that a Garda Commissioner or whoever makes these decisions at that highest level always get it 100% right, because I think this particular one is flawed. And it amazes me that 20 years ago, with 18 houses in Tarmonbarry, that you could have a sergeant and 5 guards, and today with over 400, we're down to 1, and we're talking about taking 1 away. So what I would ask you, Minister, and I would just plead with you, I know you are not making the decisions on this one, you're accepting the advice of the Commissioner, but would you please ask him to review Tarmonbarry Garda Station decision again?
If I could just say to the Senator, we have presently 703 Garda stations throughout the country. They developed piecemeal. There was no plan in their creation overall in the context of this government or previous governments. Compared to Northern Ireland in 2001, Northern Ireland had 140 police stations. The PSNI presently have 83, and under their reforming measures it's envisaged that approximately a further 35 stations will close in the period leading into 2015. The reality is we have to take account of the fact that times have moved on. We have more modern communication systems than we had in the past. We had better intelligence than we had in the past. And when it comes to dealing with organised crime, however meritorious and dedicated is the service of a single guard in a single station, it is not the efficient way for addressing issues of organised crime. And what this particular change does is it removes a member of the force from desk duty in a station that has limited what is described as footfall, and facilitates that member of the force being used in frontline services. And I have to respect the statutory operational role of the Garda Commissioner in making operational decisions, and whilst I sympathise and understand the Deputy's concerns, I don't want to give him any false comfort in this matter. The Garda Commissioner has conducted an overall review. He has reached a conclusion based on operational assessment that there's no operational benefit to the Garda Síochána in keeping the station open, and I have to respect that decision. I'm not in a position to have that decision reviewed, and the 31 stations being closed this year, I anticipate, are a prelude to further consolidation of Garda stations across the country, so that our resources are more efficiently used. The Gardaí aren't kept doing desk work who could be better used in the front line to the benefit of local communities. But I want to assure the Senator that it is the Commissioner's absolute commitment to me that in communities where stations close, he will ensure that all necessary arrangements are made to maintain a high and necessary level of policing within those areas, and that where required he will consult with local communities to give them such additional information as they require, and indeed to receive from them such comment and information as they wish to share with him, or indeed with those working under him, to contribute to policing in the area.